Pop Culture Pastor.
All right, Cody, you ready to get your heart stomped on, crushed, possibly lit on fire?
I'm not about that lifestyle.
We're back. Last of Us was the first watch-along ever.
For us.
Yeah, well, right. We're watch-alongs.
I don't know if other people have watch-alongs.
Well, if they do, we need to talk about that copyright that we never got.
So,
And therefore have no ownership over.
for us, Last of Us.
Yeah.
Numero uno,
Yeah.
baby.
So if you've been with by the way, this is Pop Culture Pastor Watch-Alongs. My name's Dave. Cody is here.
I am.
And if you've been around from the beginning, you know that Last of Us Season 1 was the first watch-along we did. And in fact, it was the reason for the starting of watch-alongs, because I believe we watched the first few episodes and just put it on the main pod. We just talked about it on the main pod. And then we thought, this is silly. We should just make this a separate pod.
Look at us.
And thus Watch-Alongs was born. See, we learn on the fly.
Go by the seat of our pants.
Yeah. And so, right, we're ready. We're ready for another season of Last of Us. What do you remember from the first season of Last of Us? Like just overall, very broad, what were your feelings for the first season?
Pedro. That was the feeling. Pedro.
I'm here for the Pedro.
No, it was a good show. A lot of interesting characters you meet along the way. All the emotion ratchets it up towards the end, with Ellie potentially being willing to lay down her life, but then Joel's like, not today, hombre.
Yeah. I think that's what I love about the first season of the show. First of all, I'm sure we talked about this in the first season watch-alongs. No show made from a video game should be this good. Like, all due respect to the video game, I've heard it's got a pretty good story, maybe the best for any video game. But this is so rich, so deep. And what I remember about the first season, especially the way it ended, was their view of humanity. And to be fair, this happens a lot in the post-apocalyptic stuff. It's usually a study of humanity when you make a post-apocalyptic story. Because what do humans do when you remove foundations?
They go beast mode.
Yeah. And so it's usually a study in humanity, and this show is no different. In fact, maybe does it the best I've ever seen. I think that's a pretty good intro for this, for watch-alongs for Last of Us Season 2.
This is Pop Culture Pastor, by the way.
I said that.
I'm going to reiterate.
Pop Culture Pastor watch-alongs. Get it right, brother.
I can't do that.
All right. New segment to start off each show. I call it Ellie's Playlist.
Oh.
Every episode, we are going to cover and take a look at some song that Ellie is listening to, and or they're playing over her if she's not specifically listening to it herself, just because there might be, fun stuff to learn in there.
Easter eggs.
Yeah, right? So in this episode, she listened in her garage mahal.
That was interesting.
That she lives in. She has her own garage mahal that she lives in.
Yes.
Yeah. She was listening to Love Buzz by Nirvana, one of Cody's favorites.
That is not my favorite Nirvana song.
Love Buzz is actually a cover of a song by the Dutch rock band Shocking Blue.
Now, Shocking Blue, on the other hand.
Now, them, I am all about. The original version of the song, released in 1969. Of course, Cobain and Nirvana gave it a very different kind of grunge heavy edge in 1988 when they recorded it for their version for their album Bleach. So featuring Love Buzz in The Last of Us as part of Ellie's playlist gives fans a glimpse into her character personality. Ellie, much like Kurt Cobain, is portrayed as someone who embraces us. She has a rawness. She's got a rebellious streak and, of course, emotional complexity.
She's kind of getting on my nerves.
We'll get there. Furthermore, the lyrics of Love Buzz evoke feelings of emotional turmoil and romantic disillusionment, which, yeah, that fits.
It does.
For her and many 19-year-olds at any given time. So there you go. Love Buzz by Nirvana.
It was a choice.
In Ellie's Garage Mahal. Or is it technically Joel's? I don't know.
It's Joel's, but it's Ellie's space.
Yeah. All right. So this season, this show, I mean, it starts exactly where we left off last season, with Ellie asking Joel if everything went down the way he says it went down with the Fireflies. And she's looking at him and he says, I swear. And Joel's poker face, Cody, is just the worst.
It has to set up some drama, so yeah.
He's looking down, like wistfully looking down, even after she's like, okay, and moves. He's still like frozen. And I'm like, bro, she's going to know something's up. Because we get a little bit more there. The first season, it ends right after she says, okay. This season, we get a little bit more. She says she starts walking down the mountainside towards Jackson, and he's still staring at the ground. And I'm like, bro, you got to move, my man.
You don't have to. Dramatic pause.
That fades to black, and then it fades back to white, and we see giraffes, and we see young people standing around it. Because my first thought, as that's coming into the picture, I'm like, oh, we're back at the Fireflies place. And then we see the people standing around graves. And I guess, I never thought of this, Cody, but I guess it makes sense that some of these doctors and older Fireflies would have kids and family. And as soon as I see them, I'm like, oh no.
These are not Bray Wyatt, the Fiend's Fireflies. These are a different set of Fireflies.
Yeah.
And they mean business.
In fact, for the remainder of our watch along, I will be calling them the FF Youth. Which sounds vaguely Nazi-ish, but that's not what I mean.
I was thinking of the Foo Fighters.
Yeah, okay. Well, I just was looking for some sort of nickname so I wouldn't have to continually say the Fireflies kids. So FF Youth it was. And there's some banter among the left behind of the younger ones. And the rumors of why Joel would have done what he did, they're kind of talking back and forth. The rumors about an immune teen and a cure. One of the youth shuts it down quickly as false rumors. Instead, one of the older ones apparently starts saying we need to go to Seattle, where apparently Ed's brother runs an outfit of them, apparently, whoever Ed is.
We all know Ed.
And then a young female says, not until we find Joel. This is Abby, Cody, who we're introduced to, and she is angry. Maybe the Seattle crew has resources that can help get some sort of lead, the dashing bearded guy prayerfully throws out.
I was rooting for that guy.
As he grabs her hands, clearly they have some sort of relationship, and that does seem to calm her down. But she does, she's not dashing off to Seattle without a promise. She says, you'll help me find him? Yes, we'll help you find him. Then we will help you kill him. And then there's a moment of silence as she looks at the grave. She hangs a necklace on one of the crosses and then utters, slowly. And the rest of them are like, baking powder? What was that? When we kill him slowly. And Cody, we have a revenge story.
We do, but at the same time, that is something that zombie stories, they make me so mad.
Well, okay, elaborate. Why?
Because you have people that are like, we are going to torture them, and they are going to feel every ounce of pain they ever inflicted on anyone. Yeah, and all the while, these zombie creatures that have been roaming, and evidently we can have zombie bears.
Oh, that wasn't a zombie bear. It was just a bear.
You can get zombie bears.
That bear was dead.
Well, now it's dead. Zombie bears.
Zombies, but the cordyceps, they wouldn't attack themselves.
Anyway. But you have these individuals still out there roaming. Yeah. And it's like, this person that we could kill instantaneously and move on. We're going to take our sweet time, put us more at risk, put him more likely to get his crew in backup to come and wipe us out. it's so infuriating. Yes, I get it. We get down to our raw, bare, vengeful selves.
To be fair, we do not know how the story is going to play out unless you played the game. I haven't played the game.
I know too many people that have played the game.
Okay, so don't spoil it for me. I'm going in blind. To be fair, I don't know how it's going to play out. And she might, it might be one of those where she gets to it, realizes she can't do it. I don't know. She seems resolute right now.
The Firefly youth, they mean business.
And
Dave.
if we're being honest, I mean, this is a bleak future they're living in. And you can see it if she's a little bitter and maybe single-minded, because she didn't have anybody else. For all these people, they're lucky to have one person. I'm here for the vengeance story, mostly because it sets up all of the oppositions, all of the versus this character is versus this character versus this character, like all these little battles that we're going to see this season. I don't think I've ever seen a season opening episode really establish that so well. So we get the 5 years later on the screen, which I audibly gasped. I was like, oh gosh, okay, we're jumping forward, and we hear sounds of fighting. It's Ellie and a much larger man. I mean, much larger. This dude, what was he looking about? 6'3", 230?
He reminded me of me.
He reminded me of 3 U's. She is bleeding. He is manhandling her, but Ellie manages to get him in a figure 4 leg lock, except on his head. It was a figure 4 headlock.
I don't think that's a thing.
I just made it a thing. She then gets him in an arm bar, which makes him tap the floor, and we hear, okay. And clearly this has been a training exercise. When Ellie finally lets go, because it takes her a minute, she was in it. She's feeling pretty good about herself, Cody. She's feeling pretty good about herself until she finds out, I pulled that first punch.
Pride goes before the fall.
The guy tells her, I'm like, he didn't knock you out with that first punch. He didn't knock you out. And she's like, he didn't. I can take a punch, apparently. And then the leader that was one of the more wittier aspects of the episode. Jesse, who is the guy coaching her at this point, says he pulled the punch, and the guy's like, I pulled the punch. And then when she finds out, like, at the behest of who, because Jesse says he would have knocked you out, and I don't want to have to explain that to Joel. And she looks incredulous as she says, don't do that again. At the mention of Joel's name, that's the first real clue that we see of, oh, there's something wrong in their relationship. Could it have been that he took her autonomy and totally lied about it?
Maybe. But at the same token, it was at this moment, I'm like, 5 years later and we still got beef.
Yeah, there's something else we don't know.
There is.
We'll get to that. Ellie cleans herself up, ignores invitations to the town's big New Year's party as she leaves and says, don't pull punches. Cody, Ellie has a real 80s action star vibe going here. Like Maverick from Top Gun, Martin Riggs from Lethal Weapon, characters that have trauma and seem to invite pain. That was an 80s trope. It's like, oh, he's a cop, but he's lost his wife, and now he just rushes in, risk averse.
That was every Mel Gibson movie in the 80s.
Yes, she's very Mel Gibson-y. She walks out into the town of Jackson, Wyoming. We get that graphic on the screen. We see construction crews working on houses, cutting pipes. The pipes are filled with roots. Cut to Joel. He's working on circuit breakers. He looks really old, like the dude from Up old.
He doesn't look that old.
Joel has clearly found his place in Jackson, and he is the foreman for the construction work going on. But what's with all that construction? More on that later. In walks a new character, Dina.
My favorite.
Dina she is a fun character. Dina is roughly the same age as Ellie, and Joel refers to her as kiddo. Dina gives Joel the 411 on the pipes, and it's clear they have a very easy kind of father-daughter kind of vibe. And we're going to see this as a stark contrast with Joel and Ellie's relationship as this episode goes on. Joel is showing Dina the finer points in circuitry when Dina asks what we're all wondering. Why is she angry with you? Clearly talking about Ellie. Now, Cody, that's a good question. Are we meant to infer, and we may have answered this already, that she's suspicious of Joel's lie, or do you think is this just normal 19-year-old / parent dynamics, or is there something we don't know?
Some of Ellie's behavior is going to be very age appropriate, like adolescents trying to find their own way, make their own path. I imagine there is at least thoughts of, well, why didn't the surgery even take place?
Yeah.
Something else had to have happened. And so I imagine there's a lot of that playing out. But she definitely has an axe to grind with old Joel.
Yeah. Joel says, I figure it's normal. Her being 19 and me being her, whatever. No one likes their parent at that age. So he's got a point. Joel admits to being hard and a little overprotective. But what did I do? Now this is interesting stuff, Cody, because they go out of their way this episode to make sure you know that Joel has not reconciled at all what he has done. Like, listen, yes, we understand he loves her as a daughter, and that was his motivation, but he still killed innocent people who did not have ill intent. Like, Ellie agreed to it. Like, they were just doing what they do. They're trying to, and when you factor in that they were looking for a cure, that's when it gets even a little bit more dicey. What Joel has done is at least worth pondering, and it's clear he has not.
Evidently, people did not have camera footage of him going all John Rambo.
Yeah. We also find out Joel's in therapy. That's going to be relevant here in a little while. We go to Tommy and Ellie. Tommy is teaching Ellie to be a sniper, not snipe hunt, which is something completely different that people tricked me into.
Oh, don't fall for that, kids.
Clearly, we're meant to see that some of the camaraderie that Joel has lost with Ellie is now being enjoyed by his brother Tommy, as this scene kind of mimics the shooting scene at the end of season 1. Couple interesting things that happen in this scene. They notice the uptick in infected that Tommy a little too simply explains away. That's going to be a trend that maybe we're not concerned about anything, apparently. He says he needs to send out a patrol that Ellie immediately calls dibs on. Tommy says, not this time. And it seems Joel has asked for her not to be on patrols for a bit. Tommy says, you've been reckless, because of course she probably has.
She's loose cannon.
She's an 80s action trope. Yes, she's being reckless. Joel's like at home, I'm too old for this stuff. Something interesting that seems like a bit, this is another brilliant piece of writing this show does, is when they need to exposit information, they do it in a natural way. They write it in a natural way. She says, I'm the least one to worry about when it comes to the infected. And he gets real serious. He's like, no, we swore we don't talk about that. To which she kind of presses, because that's her thing. She likes jabbing you in the ribs.
I'm not about that.
And she's like, I'm immune. I can't be. I've been bitten. Blah, blah, blah. And Tommy's, that's a serious thing. So you can see they're taking it very seriously that that's a secret. But Tommy relents finally and says, fine, you can be on the patrol. We go back into town, we see refugees being led into town. That's an important detail. And we get this little scene with Joel and Maria. Maria tells Joel, we need to build faster. We're running out of space to put these people. And Joel responds, maybe your council should stop letting them in. And Cody, we got a real world social issue alert.
We do. And I was here for it.
Yeah. Cody, the show's clearly mirroring the real social issue of the Western world, letting refugees in from war-torn countries. Seems like the right thing to do, but does not come without very real problems. The town's leadership is the liberal side, Joel taking up the conservative view, and they're getting down to this highly unsolvable problem in the middle of it when they are interrupted by Tommy and Maria's son Benji, Joel's nephew. And first of all, what do we think about the introduction of this issue, which is clearly going to be a thing?
It definitely highlights that there's still people roaming. Also, it highlights that the town's infrastructure, even though they probably have been working on it for a while, is still not where it needs to be. And Joel taking up this stance of, well, if we're not any good for ourselves, we can't be any good for anyone else.
He's not wrong. She's not either.
Yes.
That's what I love about this show.
It's a sticky catch-22 issue for sure.
And they're introducing him so well. I mean, we've already got one of those with what Joel did at the end of last season. Now we've got another one on top of it. And to boot, it's a real world issue.
It is.
What's the answer and the solution? Well, there might not be a perfect solution.
Usually there isn't.
So we see the nephew. And again, I like that they're showing us this softer Joel. That stability has kind of softened him. But with that softening comes the softening of the conscience, which I don't think we saw, but I think maybe we see later on.
Yes.
And as Joel leaves, Maria says, Joel, you were a refugee too. And he, for his part, knowingly nods as if he agrees.
So a difference, though, is like if you have me roaming out and about in the wilderness and I stumble into town,
I would like to see it.
I am going to be a very little assistance to the rebuilding of the infrastructure.
Cody has no skills.
I'm great at demolition work. I'm not good at putting it back together.
See, Cody is selling himself short, and I'm going to prove that with the very next thing we talk about. Because Joel's going to therapy.
Well, they already have a therapist.
Well, but it makes sense that you would need these, right? It's the post-apocalyptic world. All these people have trauma.
Yes.
And so this is the most, I don't know why we've never seen it before, but it makes perfect sense.
Well, because you have to get to a certain level of stability where you can even begin to fathom how to care for other people again.
Speaking of which, do you get the sense that with Jackson, this Jackson fortress, Fort Jackson, we'll call it, do you get the sense that there are two inherent truths that we have sayings for that are going to play out? One, strength in numbers, right? The show's Lost. The motto was live together, die alone, right? So anytime there's trouble, humans banding together is a good thing. But I also think we're going to see this truth at some point. The bigger they are, the harder they fall.
Yes.
Because I feel like this cannot last. But Joel has a therapist. We got off track.
Moira Rose.
And holy cow, she's played by Catherine O'Hara. The great Catherine O'Hara is in this show. I got so giddy when I saw her. I was like, you're kidding me.
I'm like, it's that lady from Beetlejuice.
Yeah, she's great. And oh my goodness, the little bit we get of her in this episode, fantastic. Let's talk about it. She's playing Gail, the town therapist. And Gail's been doing some day drinking,
which is not very ethical of her.
Which she points out, she admits. She clearly has an issue, and we find out pretty quickly what it is. Joel starts talking about his teenager issue. Gail stops him. She's agitated. You're leaving something out. And then she starts talking to herself. Should I say it out loud? Yeah, I should. You can't heal something unless you're brave enough to say it out loud. You shot and killed my husband. You killed Eugene, and I resent you for it. No, maybe a little more than that. I hate you for it. And yes, I know you had no choice. I know that. I know I should forgive you. I've tried and I can't because of how you did it. Now, Cody, this is very interesting because this all happened off screen in between seasons, clearly. And I don't think it went down the way they say it went down. I think we don't have all the information. And if I might throw out a little theory, which I don't know what we're going to call a conspiracy theory in this show, but it might have something to do with why Ellie is so upset with Joel. Whatever he did, he might have done in the name of protecting Ellie, which makes me wonder if Eugene found out her secret.
Maybe.
Just throwing it out there. But yeah, Cody, is it ethical for a therapist to take on a client that killed their spouse?
That probably is a conflict of interest, to say the least. The transparency that she has in this moment, Clearly, she's trying to get Joel to come to grips with something, and she's using herself as an example. You can do that with some clients, but you don't do that with everyone. Yeah. And you really have to know how they're going to respond, and this isn't oversharing. Now, he surely knows that he killed her husband.
Yeah.
And so it wouldn't be an issue of oversharing, although her sharing her feelings towards Joel might be a bit rude.
Yeah. She does. I mean, this is amazing acting, Cody. She goes through this. And by the way, it's working. It almost works. This because first of all, you can tell he's affected by the amount of grace she is willing to offer, because she says all that. She says, I hate you, but I'm here for you and I want to help you. She delivers all that. She says, I've said it, I'm ashamed, and now there's maybe a chance I can make things right with you. Your turn. And it's ridiculously fine acting by Catherine O'Hara. Say the thing you're afraid to say. I can help you. And this is followed by more wonderful wordless acting by Pedro Pascal. Just in his face, you can see he's cracking. You can see he wants to share. He's about to open up. He's got water in the eyes. His lips are quivering. He looks like he's about to confess. Then we see the resolve return to his face. And he stands up quickly, and she's taken aback. And the tear rolls out as he says, I saved her.
Yeah.
Oh,
he did.
Give me all the scenes with Pedro Pascal and Catherine O'Hara. I mean, like, look, if you're not showing that scene at the Emmys, I don't know what we're doing.
I don't either.
That was crazy good. Ellie, we go to Ellie. She's cleaning her revolver in the garage mahal when Dina stops by. There's clearly tension, and we find out pretty quickly that Ellie is infatuated with Dina. They're friends. Ellie is obsessed with her a little bit more. They head out on patrol. There's other faces we meet here, but I'm not sure they're important other than to establish Ellie's orientation. We get an ex-girlfriend. I don't know that she's that important to remember because
she is, because she's the team lead.
Cat. But it seems like she's there just so we can exposit this information of Ellie's orientation.
Yes.
Ellie and Dina are again implored to follow the rules. They tell Martin Ellie Riggs, known breaker of protocol, please don't endanger yourself and the rest of the group. To which they immediately do.
Oh, again, Mel Gibson behavior.
Martin Ellie Riggs. When the recon patrol catches the trail of blood, Ellie and Dina ride ahead to scout it out instead of going back to report it, which is what the leader wants to do. They find dead infected. They find parts of the infected and a dead bunched on huge bear outside a grocery store.
Bears.
And again, Ellie and Dina ignore the protests of their leader to go inside and scout it out, but not before they make a few bear jokes. How many infected does it take to kill a bear? What do you call a bear's rib?
Bear BQ.
Bear BQ.
That one was so bad.
Yeah, they're not taking this very seriously, and we're about to learn that they probably should have, because we get this rather intense action sequence inside the grocery store that has a few notable happenings. One, the audience learns along with Ellie that the infected are evolving. They're getting smarter, they're getting quieter, and sneaky, they're stalking, in Ellie's words.
She wasn't wrong.
Yeah, that was kind of scary. That was a scary scene. Two, in this, we get a display of Ellie's overconfidence and how this may put people she cares about in danger, including herself.
Oh, we're going to lose Dina, probably.
Yeah, that's kind of where I feel like it's going too. Everyone's walking the same track, right? Like, Joel walked this track already when he lost his daughter on night one.
Yep.
And we saw how it affected him. And it feels like, Ellie has kind of walked that track too. But we'll get there. Number 3, Ellie gets bit, but conceals it from everyone.
Don't do that.
Yeah. She reports the incident to the council, including the apparently evolving infected. The council touches on the worry of a horde, quotes Lily Tomlin, and then decides to switch gears and just focus on the New Year's party.
Well, you got to focus on the good.
Cody, I'm going to have to give a vote of no confidence to these jabronis. Who are these? What is going on?
Well, there's not much you can do for advanced warfare zombies.
Yeah, let's go party. Let's go party like it's 2029.
And I think if you are going to have a moment of relaxation, a New Year's Eve party is the thing to do.
Well, before the party, Ellie cuts her bite marks with a knife that she sterilizes to make them appear to be normal lacerations, which seems like she does this in a way that clues you into she may have done this before. Joel stops in, and this whole scene is painful. Joel tries, but Ellie is barely wanting to talk to him, and it's just painful to watch.
So it was at this moment I had flashbacks to a series that Dave and I disagreed upon, and I could never get past the first episode.
Oh?
It reminded me of Miss Marvel.
Okay.
That very first episode where she's just being rude to the most loving parents ever.
Yeah.
And I'm like, you got a good thing, kid. Yes, rules are bad. I hear you. But it is done from a loving place. Don't be rude to your family if your family's actually kind of good. Now, is Pedro Pascal fully good in this show? Maybe not. But we treat Joel with respect.
Yeah, but this version of Joel, this is clearly a softened Joel. This is not the same Joel that rolled into town 5 years ago.
Nope.
This is a completely different Joel. And yeah, there's got to be more information. I just don't believe that this is all she has an inkling that he may have lied to her about what went down with the Fireflies. I feel like there's something else going on here.
And he's willing to fix your guitar. How nice. You don't deserve it.
We go to the party, the New Year's Eve party, and Jesse, who's the leader guy from earlier, and apparently Dina's ex. He's watching and talking to Ellie about a very inebriated Dina, and then Dina comes over and gets Ellie to dance. There's some of the language here leads me to believe that Dina broke up with her boyfriend because maybe she realizes she was into Ellie. Is that the same vibe you got? Because she says, you guys will be back together in 2 weeks. And he says, not this time. It's not going to happen. The behavior is really weird here by Dina.
She will probably blame it on intoxication.
Oh, yeah. And then that'll kind of rip Ellie's heart out.
Yes.
That won't be good. They get closer. The reason is because what we're talking about is they get closer and their easy banter is clearly meant to show the audience their closeness. And then Dina kisses her, which prompts random town guy to say, this is a family event, to which I fell out. I was laughing so hard after he said the look on that dude's face.
So it was interesting that this is the event that we take a moral high ground. I would have said like, hey, we don't need to be making out during this public event.
I imagine this dude would have said that to a guy and girl her age doing what they were doing. I think it's okay to say, hey, this is a family event. Obviously, what he says next does not. Well, he does in the middle of that. He says, you're in a church. And then he lets loose with the slur. And before Ellie can even fly off the handle, Joel accosts the townie abruptly.
He still has it.
Yeah, I mean, he comes out of nowhere.
Flips a switch.
And things get calmed down pretty quickly, but Ellie stirs it right back up because she publicly dresses down Joel in front of everybody. What is wrong with you? I don't need you to protect me.
You would not have made it across the United States of America to this town without Joel.
Cody is still sticking with she's an ungrateful teenager.
She is.
He may not be wrong. While I noticed that, I took note of that. What I could not help but notice was the very despondent Joel we get left with as he hangs his head.
Well, he's still trying to keep a relationship with her. And every time he does a move that theoretically should show compassion or caring with the fixing of the guitar or sticking up for her in her orientation, And her friend, nope, I'm going to belittle you.
What worries me, Cody, is they're making a concerted effort to show us softer Joel. And I've watched enough post-apocalyptic shows to know what happens when you go soft. Don't you take Pedro away from us. Don't you do it, Last of Us. I don't know what happens in the video games, but your look right now is not making me confident.
I mean, in all zombie apocalypse things,
I am spoiler free, and I'm hoping to remain that way.
eventually we will all die.
Thanks. You're letting me down easy. As Jackson, Wyoming parties, a dropped sprinkler firework sits next to one of the overgrown pipes from earlier, and Cordyceps reaches out towards the heat. We get pulled back on the camera to view as if the Cordyceps we already know are communicating, and boy, that's a bad sign.
Zombie bears.
And there's no zombie bears. But if you thought things couldn't get worse, we cut to the mountains outside of town where we see Abby and the FF youth watching the lit up town from afar. They are there 5 years later and ready to find Joel.
It was at this point, I'm like, really? Like 5 years has gone by and you're like, this guy might be here. We're going to pounce.
We don't know yet what they had to go through to get information about him and figure it out.
Joel's...
Dude, they don't have monorail.
He's old. He could have died.
Yeah. I don't know. I mean, maybe. Cody, I can't remember a first episode of a season that so perfectly sets us up. I said this earlier, not just the who will be opposing who, but the motives for each and the balance of it all. Like, we've got all these oppositional sides and none of them are, it's not good versus evil here. This is just people versus people, and they all seem to have good reasons for it.
Well, we're Team Pedro over here.
Yeah, which leads us to what I'm calling the pastor's corner.
Oh.
Where we talk about deeper things, deeper themes.
I wasn't ready for this because I was all on board for Team Pedro, where we burn it all down.
I want to focus on one of the episode's most powerful aspects, the human conflict at the heart of this story. I think this is brilliantly written. It shows us how the choices that people make define kind of who they are and where they're going to be lined up. And there's rarely a clear line here between like good and bad. And the episode is a perfect example of that gray area. Take Abby, for instance. She's got this quest for revenge against Joel. She feels justified from it. People looking at it from her perspective probably couldn't argue against it. But what makes the show so compelling is that it doesn't just paint her as a villain. She's not a mustache twirling bad guy like the leader of the cannibals from last season. It's a real complex human who's been hurt and is acting out from that pain, and the viewer gets it. And we understand her, even if we don't agree with her actions, because we're not down with killing Pedro.
We're not.
But this is where The Last of Us, I think, hits home for me. It mirrors these tough choices we all face in life, the ones we don't always have clear answers for. And our choices aren't as hard as theirs because we're not, living in a zombie wonderland. It's not survival at all costs, the choices we're making.
Most of the time.
But I do like seeing this because our world tries to convince us that our choices are just about us. And that's never really true.
It affects people in ways you don't even realize.
Yeah. So I love what the show's doing, showing that, hey, man, Joel made a choice born of love that he hadn't felt for someone in a long time. Daughter, fatherly love. And nobody would say that's bad. But what he did was bad. He's not a bad person, but he made choices that are going to be viewed as bad by some people on the other end of those choices. And so I just love the complexity and the realness of that. What do you got? Anything deeper you want to talk about?
I definitely do like the aspect of at least a community being able to band together for a prolonged amount of time, so much so that we're not only rebuilding the infrastructure of the town itself, but you're actually getting the helping professions pop up outside of first aid.
Yeah.
So if you have someone that is practicing therapy and is trying to help people process all this trauma that they've had to go through for 20 plus years. It's a big deal. And even putting aside some hurts to do so, because clearly Gail, or Moira Rose as I refer to her as, she has significant issues with Joel, but she's willing to put that off to the side and hear him out and try to get him to a place where he's able to move on and move through whatever it has got him stuck.
Yeah. A lot of grace being offered by Gail. Yeah.
Yes.
And as far as what you said about Jackson, I think the interesting thing we're seeing here is you see it in the overconfidence in this episode, their unwillingness to really think, oh, this might be an upcoming problem. Let's really dig into that. They seem to be overconfident. They're almost like living like the old way. And I think in a post-apocalyptic world, you would just see the cycle of empires go faster. So you see this in historical sense over long, many years. The idea of a Rome or even the United States get overconfident with their place in the world and slowly start to get dismantled from the outside and the inside. And I think you're seeing it in a fast sense with what would be an empire in this world, because how many Jacksons do we think there are in the world in 2029 in this world? Probably not many.
Probably not.
Yeah. So all in all, I'm digging the deep themes of the episode. Cody, now it's time for Rip.
Rest in peace.
Rest in peace. Cody, we're gathered here today to honor the life of Smokey the Bear, who tragically lost his life in the line of duty, sacrificing himself for a greater cause. While he may have been a mighty creature of the wild, Cody, he met his end in the most unexpected of ways, being eaten by moldy plant zombies.
Happens to the best of us.
Smokey, you were a true warrior of the forest. May your majestic form forever be etched into our hearts. May your sacrifice be remembered. And may we all take a moment to reflect on the importance of proper bear safety. Rest in peace, Smokey. You will not be forgotten, even though you were pretty well eaten.
At least a good chunk of you.
Luckily, no real characters died this episode.
Zombie plant people did.
Unless we want to count Eugene. But we didn't know Eugene. We just learned about him today.
Eugene's in my heart.
All right. I renamed the winners and the losers of the episode. They have to have actual names now. So who is your Captain Kirk winner of the episode award? Because Captain Kirk's a winner, Cody.
It's probably going to be an obvious answer for me, and it's Pedro. That he still got it.
You really? That's what you got from that episode? Wait, you mean Pedro the actor?
Yes.
Oh, yeah.
He can still act, people.
Pedro's amazing.
Especially with Moira Rose.
Gail.
Yes.
We're going to have to start using her actual name on the show. For those people that didn't watch Hits Creek.
Yeah, he's putting on an acting clinic with a very talented thespian across from him. And he's holding his own. And I feel like dads everywhere were like, dude, I feel for you, as she is not acknowledging your sacrifices here of fixing a guitar and standing up for her.
In the great words of Eric Cartman, she's not respecting his authority.
Yep.
I feel like Cody's going to start referring to her as Kevin's mom if we give him long enough.
It is a possibility. I also wondered if her husband was named Eugene after Eugene Levy.
Yeah, that'd be kind of cool.
It would be.
I don't think so. I watched the behind the scenes. I think Eugene was a character from the game.
I love to think that the game makers knew the future. And we're like, there's going to be a popular Canadian show where Kevin McAllister's mom is going to be married to Eugene
Did
Levy.
their Eugene have big bushy eyebrows? We'd have to know that.
I hope so.
My winner of the episode, it's Ellie for me, right? If I'm going with a character, it's probably Ellie, because she's turned into this awesome 80s action hero of the show. She can handle herself in the field. She's a future sniper, and she gets the girl, right? In the end. She's literally an 80s action trope.
Mel Gibson Jr.
which is going to contrast with my Wile Coyote loser of the episode.
Is there any reason that we chose the two individuals we did?
Because Captain Kirk represented winning to me, and Wile Coyote represents losing.
Okay.
I know. It's a geek thing.
It is.
I'm going to go first on the loser just because it contrasts with one of your answers. Our guy Joel is the loser of the episode. He seems straight neutered compared to the dude who rescued Ellie from the Fireflies last time we saw him and shot his way out. I just felt sad for my guy Joel most of the episode.
So I did not. And it had actually nothing to do with it being Pedro Pascal. For me, Joel has taken a tonal shift because they are in a tonal shift themselves. They're no longer on the run. You no longer have to be super defensive and overprotective. Your main threat is some drunk guy at a New Year's Eve party.
Yeah.
That's all they're really worried about.
To be clear, I think that's beautiful. I think it's beautiful that when they get out of harm's way into what appears to be good security, we get to see the Joel that maybe would have existed in some form had none of this ever happened. So I think that's beautiful. However, I think we're setting him up to be too weak when they need him to be strong.
I think you're going to get a different type of love shown on the big screen.
Okay. Who's your loser of the episode?
It's probably going to be Dina.
Dina! You think this is going to end badly for Dina?
I think her close proximity to Ellie is going to be compromising to her overall well-being.
She does reek of the horror movie trope where you have young teen age characters. She's like the free spirit.
Yep.
They always die. Every single horror movie I've ever watched with young people. The free spirited one that's like not afraid and just woohoo. Yeah, they always
I'll go
die.
with you into that grocery store that has 2 floors.
Right? I'm like, no, don't go in there. What are you doing? I was like, I'd have been the people on the horses. Like, were you just going to let them go? All right. Cody, how many bear ribs out of 10 are you giving this episode?
For it being a first season premiere episode, I'll go 8.
Yeah, I'm going to go 8 too. It's nothing like amazing happens, but it does such a good job of setting up the season. Like I'm just really impressed with how this sets up. Like I don't need to be told. I don't need to see the next week on or whatever because I kind of know where this is going.
Until they throw a curveball and you know nothing.
It's very possible. All right. That's our show. First watch along. Last of Us episode 1 down. How did you like the episode? You tell us. Where did we get it wrong? Tell us where we got it wrong.
How many tears did you cry as Ellie was being rude to Joel?
Yes, please tell us that. All right. We'll see you next week.